back, listeners, to the BizPen podcast, where business meets mindset and personal growth fuels professional success. I'm your host, Sana, and today's episode is about more than just building companies. It's about building yourself. Listeners, our guest today is Benjamin Nevares. He's a former Team USA powerlifting competitor, published exercise science researcher, and now the proud owner of not one but four businesses. Listeners, he's the founder of IE Health, host of the Ben Thinking podcast, and owner of the Las Vegas Venom, his very own Grid League team. But listeners, Ben's story didn't begin with shiny titles or wins. It began in a small town in Texas where less than 1% of kids graduated. And it's laced with real life struggles, battling addiction, navigating recovery, and finding strength in ownership of mind, body, and business. So, today we'll talk about how fitness creates mental discipline, how education gives you that leverage, and how owning your story is the first step to owning your future. And this is a conversation about preparation, purpose, and pushing past your limits, even when nobody is coming to save you. So, with that, Ben, welcome to the show, and it is such an honor to have you with us.
Well, I just want to say thank you for having me. And what an amazing introduction. You can tell you've done this quite a little bit. You can definitely tell. So, yeah, I'm excited to be here and hopefully share some valuable content to a lot of individuals that maybe either are struggling with how to live a healthier life or even what does living a healthy life even mean? And then what are the long-term benefits of that? So, I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely, Ben. Thank you so much for those kind words. And let's start with your story. I mean, when I was going through your intro, um, it's such a powerful, your journey is such a powerful mix of personal transformation and entrepreneurial drive. So I'm really curious to know, how did your background in fitness and powerlifting shape your mindset for business, and how exactly your journey started into the world of sports?
My journey started very early on. We were fortunate enough to have a gym pretty much right next to our house. So my grandfather had built a gym, and so my dad was in the police force there, and he was training rather often. So I got to go with him as a kid, probably about 5 or 6 years old is when first started inside of the gym, and it, progressed year over year. It didn't necessarily get better. It was just more exposure. And by the time I got into like really competing against my peers or like recognizing where my peers were relative to where I was probably in the seventh or eighth grade, and I was one of the weakest kids in that room. And instead of getting demoralized and then shutting down, I ended up just recognizing that's the reality and realize that it's going to take work in order for me to continue to progress. And if I want to be competitive, that's my options are either to quit or to double down and really spend some more time in learning on how really to get better. So I started reading very early on about exercise science, about programming, and then I had some really interesting individuals along the way that were able to influence me ultimately a positive light that were, just great coaches, great people that educated me on how I should be doing it to move forward. By the time we got into like a freshman, sophomore year of high school, first, second year of uh, you know, uh, that year of school, um, I became one of the strongest individuals, and I unfortunately, had 2 surgeries my sophomore year, and so I wasn't able to compete that year, but I came back and I knew that there was a way to do this, in a healthy way. So I continued to reach out on, just on Facebook Messenger, asking people for advice or looking on, websites like bodybuilding.com or tnation.com so I could learn about really what I should be doing for recovery or for mobility given my current situation. So I was able to find a couple really interesting individuals that allowed me to take my efforts over to the next level. And I started competing for Team USA at that point. But because of that, because of my interest, because of my research, I had questions. And I knew that college was kind of the next thing. So when I was preparing to go to university, I ended up emailing a couple different professors. One of them replied to me and then invited me to work inside of his lab whenever I finally got to the university. I hadn't even been accepted yet. So finally, when I got accepted, I moved up a different city and I went to Texas A&M University for my undergrad. And I was approached with really kind individuals that were able to help me progress forward.
Well, you definitely have got that warrior mindset. Definitely, because life, we say that life gives us so many chances, but it becomes sometimes too late to identify or realize that, that these chances are gone. But every time something was taken from you, you didn't give up. You just, did what you had to do. The goal was clear in your mind. You just figured it out. So, definitely very, very inspiring journey, Ben. And thanks for sharing that. And this particular discipline and that motivation required in gym, was there any particular moment like training or maybe during recovery where you realized that this was transferable beyond the gym? I mean, what sparked that entrepreneurial bug within you?
It's a really good question, and it initially was prompted to me from a question. So on my during my research of exercise science, I learned of this gentleman by the name of Dave Tate, and Dave was the owner of a company called Elite FTS, and he had a book. And I really wasn't a reader. I honestly didn't really enjoy reading almost at all, but I was interested in reading about exercise science. And so this gentleman who owned this business was a successful powerlifter. And so I felt like it's somebody that I was looking up to at the time. And so I bought his book, Under the Bar, and it was a transformative book. And the lesson that came out of it for me was, you're already working hard in the gym, just transfer that to any part of your life, and it's the same idea. It's still work, but you already have the discipline and learning the skills of how to learn because you've been on this journey of working towards success in the gym. But there's no difference. It's showing up, it's just getting the work done. If anything, it's easier because working out sometimes is uncomfortable. And yes, sitting down, working on a business, being exposed to things that maybe make us feel uncomfortable can also be challenging, but it's not necessarily, 500 pounds on my, I'm squatting 500 pounds or benching 400 pounds. Like I'm not sweating. I'm in an air conditioned environment. I'm sitting down. It's mentally taxing, but it's not very physically taxing. So, um, that was probably the big turning point for me where I realized all I have to do is transfer this thing that I already love, take the same concepts and apply it to absolutely any part of my life and it'll excel. And, saying it out loud is a good reminder for me in this moment. What am I doing today that I could show up and be my best self for? And it's, it's highly valuable.
Really, really. Um, it's obvious, first of all, how the parallels can be drawn between working out or gymming and real life scenarios, especially entrepreneurship, because it's not a magic happening that just within 3 or 6 months you get ripped out. It's about that discipline, that consistency. You start small, but you are regular, you show up. That's what it is. And secondly, since you talked about how transformative the book was for you, let's talk about education, Ben. So from exercise physiology to now pursuing MBA, what's the real ROI on education in your journey?
That's a really good question. I think that there's a difference between a a formal education and then an informal education. So our formal education is going to be inside of maybe the classroom. So I have my undergraduate degree in exercise science, and then I have my master's degree in exercise science as well. And then now I'm being exposed to the Masters of Business Administration, or the MBA. And next, I think in the future we'll end up becoming a PhD. So I think that a lot of value to being in the classroom and being exposed to new ideas, having challenging conversations with both, or challenging concepts and ideas with different both peers, and also maybe some professors that really like will help push you in a direction that's valuable. I also think that the fact that I had an internal desire to learn about something in particular was a good driving force, and so I got to learn a lot when I was working with clients or other athletes, because I had already done a lot of the research. I was buying the books. I didn't even know that the reputation of the people that I was buying the books from. It's just, what are the best books? Go to Google. What are the best books in exercise science? And I would buy 5 books, and I would read these guys, and little did I know later on, I'm reading, Cal Dietz and Dr. Stone and these like amazing researchers that are in academia, that use academia to ultimately put out content in more of a textbook, or more of a novel format. And so I think that it's been a very valuable experience, not just because of what I'm learning in the classroom, but I think even more so it's the connections that I make with the individuals that are in that same cohort, or that same group. So I'm able to, one, I can leverage it inside of my business, where I can tell people, like, yes, I have a master's in exercise science. I'm not a normal, trainer. I've been doing this for a very long time. I'm very well educated, and that definitely sets me apart. And then the Masters of Business was an opportunity for me to be more exposed into the language of business, which has been rather helpful, because it's stuff that I never would have, learned otherwise. And maybe I could have done the same thing where I'm, what are the best books on business? But there was something valuable to the structure of, we're going to learn it in this kind of a way, rather than just being thrown into it and then, kind of floundering. I mean, I had a lot of practical knowledge on both ends, on both business. I've been operating my own businesses for a little while now, but at the time, and if I'm gonna look at the exercise science world, I'd have been training for a very long time. I'd been in the gym for a long time, but there was something hard for me around the business concepts, because there's so much content out there. You don't really know what's good and what's bad, and so I wanted to get into a class that I can, okay, this is what a beta means. This is what an IRR means. This is what a modified IRR means, a WAC, right? And all these different languages that I wasn't entirely exposed to, or really had a foundation for.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Do you think, because sometimes we talk about that uh, people leave dropouts becoming entrepreneurs, inspiring figures out there. So sometimes there's kind of I don't know, maybe it's a misconception, but do you think, Ben, that formal education is essential for entrepreneurs, or is it more about the education of experience, working on the field?
I think both are valuable. I think that a lot of individuals end up dropping out and then don't go to college. We know a lot of very popular individuals that never went to college, people that claim that college is a waste of money. And I think that, unfortunately, especially here in the United States, that it's expensive to go to school, and that's rather unfortunate. Education is expensive. Formal education is expensive, and there's a lot of opportunities for, like, there's podcasts all around, YouTube and Spotify and you name it, that are teaching these tools to individuals for free, right? And that's pretty amazing. So there's also a lot of free resources for people who maybe don't have the opportunity to go to these schools. Now I think that inside of a more of a formal education at the university, I'm connected with individuals who are doing business in the city, and so it gives me a networking opportunity as well. And there's also tools or programs within the university that have reached for me, that maybe I'm looking to work with a venture capital group And because I'm at the university, I automatically have a connection within somebody there. And so that it can provide a massive amount of value. And now people are paying for, masterminds. People, I know I have some clients of mine that are paying $50,000 a year for masterminds. And I know that they can even be more than that. So I think people are ultimately still paying for their education. Now, I can't only rely on the education and then never practicing, right? If I never put those things into reality, then they're just concepts. And so I can go to a branding course every single day for the next 5 years, but if I never really work on my brand, then I never really get anywhere, right? I don't actually get any information on how people are going to react to how I think they will react to my brand. I need to put something out there given the skills that I have, then I can maneuver and adapt to what the market is telling me, but I need some sort of foundation. So whether you're getting that information in an informal way through maybe more masterminds, even though I would consider masterminds a little bit more formal, masterminds or YouTube or books, I think there's also, there's value in also the formal part, ultimately just gaining that foundation that I can now use and adapt because now I have those skills, and that knowledge to actually apply.
Mm, makes sense. Makes really great sense, man. And of course, I got to ask this. You own four companies now. I mean, how do you mentally manage that level of responsibility, especially coming from a place where resources were limited?
At first, I'll be very honest, and it was really hard. I mean, I was struggling with addiction at the time, and I mean, I think that was part of it. I was just so overwhelmed by the the risk ultimately is what it is. Like this could either really work out or it doesn't work out at all. And that's kind of scary, when you're coming into business and, we didn't have any funding. We were from the ground up bootstrapped. It was, I mean, really hard, especially when, I already own a home and I need to make sure that I can pay those bills and how do I do it? And I mean, it was very, very stressful. And we've added those companies over time. It's not like we, came into the game with four companies. I mean, there would have been no way. We just have been approached with opportunities that allowed us to really, compound what we've built at the very beginning, and we're still building, right? Um, but it was not at all easy, and so, having a good support system is probably the most important thing where, we're communicating with people who maybe understand a little bit more what's going on, and that could be other entrepreneurs, that could be, for me, it was not my parents. My parents told me not to do this at all. They were very, probably more fearful probably just worried for me, and so those conversations were rather difficult. Um, but finding a community of people that ultimately kind of share in that stress is what's helpful. And so we meet with there's people that we meet with just randomly all the time that we can go to networking events and create a connection. And sometimes those fizzle out and that's fine. But then, you have one or two that really stick and those are massively valuable. At the very beginning, very tough. And as time has gone on, we've, created more systems. And that honestly, I was never a calendar guy. And I know it sounds like a ridiculous system, but I use that calendar more than I ever thought that I would ever use it. And it's what I live by at this point. If it's not on the calendar, then it's not going to get done. And so using and it's free, right? Which is awesome. Like I can just go to Google Calendar and schedule out my times, my days. But I really use that guy and also as a frame of reference to how much am I getting done in a day? Where do I have opportunity to fill? And so I think that the calendar is an oddly useful tool that I never really thought about. So, and then we have help, right? We've hired individuals to help us out, whether that be marketing agencies or advertisement agencies, just individuals who are other coaches, or we have assistants. Like there's a lot of support in CPAs, bookkeepers, like we have business managers, social media managers. Like we ended up hiring a lot of people over the time because there's no way that I could do it on my own. I mean, it would be impossible, entirely impossible if I try to do it on my own.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, uh, you you have your values aligned, you have your business aligned with your values, you have the resources, but I think the most important aspect of any business is the people. You have the right people in your team, you know how to delegate, you have the communication sorted out, the intercommunication with your team members. They are reaching out to you, you are reaching out to them. I think, it definitely brings out the clarity, and it really plays a big role in decision making as well. So that's such an important lesson, Ben. So before we wrap up, so for someone listening who feels stuck, um, even to have, because our minds are, our brains are built in such a way that we tend to, or we fear changes, even if they are very small changes. So what's the first step or the rep they need to take toward change?
Allow yourself to not let it be perfect. You have to crawl before you can walk. You have to walk before you can run. So realize that today, whenever maybe it's something new that you're starting, maybe it's your first podcast, or maybe it's your first social media post, and realize that it's not going to be great. Do the best you can, but it's not going to be as good as your second post or your third post or your 10th or your 30th, right? Like it's gonna take time, and that can be even a sales call. Like, pick up the phone, dial the first call, and fail, and be okay with that. And who knows, you might be gifted and you close it on the first time. That's fantastic. It's not gonna happen every time, I'll tell you that. Uh, but allowing yourself to not be perfect, to fail, is the step number 1. It's all about reps. It's getting on more podcasts, it's speaking to more people, it's posting more content. Whatever the thing is that you see in your business that need some help, or even in your own individual life, like if I know I'm not going to the gym, then just go for a walk, right? And the walk's not going to feel very good, and that's okay. But your 10th walk will feel better than your first walk. I can guarantee you that. And you'll find more value in those times, and you're going to realize, oh man, this is something that I value and that I'm not going to get away from. What else could I add that maybe would be valuable, right? So it is a journey. It is tough, uh, but there's a lot of support out there, and a lot of that support comes from how we talk to ourselves. And if we expect ourselves to be perfect, then it's going to be really hard to grow because nobody's perfect. I mean, you can look at a business from the outside and say, "Wow, what an amazing company," um, or "What an amazing person, they've built X, Y, Z." But they are still figuring it out. They're still trying things, they're still failing, and there's more similarities than there are differences between the person who maybe is running $1 million company and the person who's running $100,000 company. They're similar, and so allow yourself to not be perfect.
So it's more about ownership than perfection.
That's correct. That's correct.
Great, great, Ben. And finally, if our listeners would like to connect with you, how they can do that?
The best way is gonna be on Instagram. You can find me at Ben Nevares on Instagram, and then you can follow my podcast, the Ben Thinking Podcast. Anywhere you find podcasts, it's everywhere. And then we also, we have IE Health, which is our health and fitness brand. And so if you're looking to be healthier, just to live a healthier life, create custom tailored programs to you, then you can find us at iehealth.co. And, one of our team members will reach out and set up a consult with you.
Lovely. I'll make sure to have all the links and details mentioned in the show notes. And Ben, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your journey, and all the experiences, all your learnings, your insights from what you have been doing and what you are doing. Thank you so much for this.
Sana, I really appreciate your time. This was a really fun time. So I hope it provides value to a lot of people.
Absolutely. So, listeners, Ben's story is a reminder for all of us that your past doesn't qualify you, it prepares you. Whether it's from a weight bench or a boardroom, discipline, ownership, and vision matter. And as Ben said, no one is coming, but that doesn't mean you are alone. So, thank you to everyone for tuning into this blend. If you loved this episode, don't forget to subscribe to us and share it with someone who needs this reminder. You can figure it out. You just need to start. Take that first step. Thank you so much.